to Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry from the informative to the insane, starring Ryan Rash.
They told me I couldn't, that's why I did.
And Dale Hummel.
Passion, not pedigree, will win in the end.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello.
You are in the happy stage at the Miss America of everything.
A great mood. I am in Miss America, and it's been wonderful. It's not over, but it's been wonderful so far. And the best news is the rumor going around the pageant is that it is moving to Dallas, Texas next year. I will just be in heaven if it is. Nothing against Unkinsville, Connecticut, where I've been these past 3 years.
You've explained to me you're kind of in a compound and you just don't go.
Literally. Yeah, you just don't go. Like, it's an hour and a half to anything. Like, you're in this compound and, like, they have 40 restaurants and whatever. But, yeah, no. But, like, if it's in Dallas next year, like they say it's going to be, oh, my God. I'm just going to be the happiest little gay child in the history of the world.
So back to the compound that you're in. Obviously, the contestants are coming through the lobby up and down. Do you run into the contestants?
Well, no, the contestants are all under security, but you run into the EDs and their parents and stuff like that. But no, the only time you get to see the contestants are on stage, or they have a visitation each night after prelims where you can spend like 30 minutes talking to your girl. But I don't do that.
Not the judges, obviously.
No, like the parents and supporters and people from that state go up and, oh, you're beautiful and you're doing wonderful and you're going to win, when there's only going to be one winner. But anyway, I don't do that. I go to the bar. So
they don't see, they're pretty much locked in a room.
They are at rehearsals they're under constant guard. Yeah.
That's interesting to me. And the judges are sequestered at any level? Or?
Yeah, just like I was at Miss Texas. No, you like the judges, you are in your room or somewhere is with you. Yeah, no, it's terrible.
So is this televised live?
No, it is streamed, but it is not televised live. But
yeah, so could the judges watch the streaming playback and get the commentators' opinions on things?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, you can watch it again. Yeah, because they're like, I love pageants, obviously, but there are like people that I know here that like they'll be sitting there at the pageant and watch it all tomorrow night, because it's all tomorrow night, and then they'll go to their hotel room and rewatch it again. I'm like,
they enjoy it.
You just saw it.
Well, just in case Chase decides to tune in here, we do have Chase on with us today to talk a little bit about our main topic, but sometimes he feels obligated to tune in on current events.
Well, I have so many current events.
Yes, you just jump right in.
So many current events. So first off, I want to say this to all politicians, Democrats and Republicans alike. No one gives a blank if anyone goes visits the border. Just fix the damn problem. You don't have to go visit the border to fix the problem. You can see the problem in all the video. I am so sick of Kevin McCarthy saying that when he becomes speaker, how he's going to fix the border is he's going to take Democrats and Republicans. Nobody cares if you go visit the border. Just fix it.
I think the whole point of that is
no, there is no point.
Yes, if Biden goes to the border, he's acknowledging there's a problem, which he refuses to acknowledge.
He knows there's a problem. He knows there's a problem.
It's all about perception, and that is why they want to get. I agree with you. We all know there's a big problem.
It is dumb.
I do not believe Joe thinks it's a problem. I believe it's absolutely part of the plan.
He knows it's a problem, because I've never seen so much coverage over the border, because Title 42 comes up next week, and when it's done. I know you know, Dale, but I don't know if the listeners do. There are literally, I can't even tell you how many thousands of people laying in wait for Title 42 to go out next week to come across.
And even right now, the numbers are staggering without.
Oh, since October, it's over 500,000. That is more since October, 500,000. That is more than the whole 2020 year total.
No, the floodgates are open.
But Title 40, this whole Title 42 thing, it's a mess, and the courts have outlawed it. I don't know, which I don't even understand why, because all Title 42 says is that if you are not from this country and you come into this country, then we can send you back to your country. That's what it says.
Correct. But I think it's a World War II era. It started then, and I think it prohibits entry into the United States if the Centers for Disease Control believes it to be a problem from a disease standpoint. That's the only thing that we're kind of pushing a little bit the limits on. Is there still COVID? Absolutely. Is it still coming across the border? Absolutely. But yeah, it doesn't need to be tied to disease. We just need a damn border. How do we define a country without a border? How? I'm confused.
I've never seen so much coverage. I mean, like literally it's all day, every day on every.
And I don't doubt this is a headache for Biden, but I do believe he wants people coming across the border. I believe the far left wants this to happen, and they assume they're going to vote for him at some point. That is the only. There is no other explanation. They have to see it. They cannot be that ignorant. I believe them to be ignorant, but not to this level.
I'm sure they do want them to come in, and maybe they think they're going to get more votes, whatever. I don't care.
Is there another explanation? I have
no. There's really not. But like I just get so tired of both sides, because even the Democrats are putting pressure on the White House now that like since Title 42, like something's got to be done. Like you've got to put something else in place or do something or whatever, because like this is going to be just freaking like, the craziest stuff ever.
They predict 20,000 plus a day coming across when that opens.
Yeah.
That's so like, the numbers were like 5 million a year. We cannot continue to absorb this many people. And what I don't understand, Ryan, they come over, we process them, give them a phone, maybe a meal, some money, some clothes. I really don't know what happens.
Yeah.
But I do know we give them a bus ticket or an airline ticket to go somewhere in the country. But then are we still supporting them? Are we subsidizing them? Because technically as an employer, I don't think I can hire them. It's a mess. It is a monstrous mess. And I have no idea how this gets fixed.
And again, that's the other thing that annoys me. Okay, like Democrats are screaming, you've got to do something. Republicans have been screaming, so now they're screaming louder. But in Kevin McCarthy's, I'm going to fix it because I'm going to take everyone to the border. No, tell me what you're going to do after you take them to the border. Okay, like what is the fix here? No one has said. Not even, I mean, I get why those 5 Republicans aren't voting for this man for speaker. I don't blame them. I think he's dumb. But anyway, why not? Can't any of them point to, I'm not saying all of Trump's border policies work, but some of them were very, very effective, extremely effective. Why don't they come out and say, this policy, this Trump era policy, and this Trump era policy, and this Trump era policy, if we would reinstate them, that will help us in this area, and this area. Get a damn plan. Don't talk to me about dragging a whole bunch of politicians to the border. I'm angry over it.
I get it. I'm with you. And I call this a restriction via pandemic, brought it on or allowed it. Or I don't care if you keep 42. Let's just close the border. There is no explanation that allows this many people, immigrants, to come in across the river. If they want to come to a port of entry and they want to apply for political asylum or anything they want, or try to get a green card or whatever, maybe a work visa, let's just make a legal way for people to come in, and it's organized and it's documented where the drug cartel doesn't control it. They're profiting more off of bringing immigrants to the river than they are off the drugs right now. And the drugs are flowing so freely when all of our border agents are tied up processing. And Biden wants $4 billion more to get more people down there to process these immigrants. Nobody's saying anything. Let's go check on the gangs that are coming across the border, the cartel, bad people that are coming across the border, the fentanyl that's flooding our streets. We're not talking about that. We just want more money for more people to process immigrants, to get as many voters into this country as they can. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but I can't come up with anything else. I'm as angry as you, if not more so, Ryan. I'm out.
I'm over it. Like, I'm serious. Like, again, the next time Kevin McCarthy comes on the freaking TV at the hotel, I may like throw something at him. Like, but
And I didn't even bring in that the China supplying all the raw ingredients for the fentanyl come across and laughing at us about it and almost in our face, not even pretending like they're not doing it in conjunction with the drug cartel in Mexico. It's unbelievable to me that we could be in this position.
And we've been on this 10 minutes, but this is the last thing I'm going to say on it, and I'll move on to something else that I'm going to rant about. But anyway, like, I don't know what policy specifically it was, but Trump enacted a policy where Mexico was actually helping us send these people back to wherever they came from. Like, Mexico was helping us do this. So,
and do you want to know what they're doing now? They're busing them to the border towns.
If nothing else, reinstate that right there. If Mexico will agree to it, reinstate that so we at least have some help in controlling the problem.
But what we haven't touched on is the Biden White House refuses to acknowledge anything Trump put in place is of value. They're too stubborn to do it. They won't acknowledge it, period. They won't do it. And it's destroying our country.
Well, Joe has his own problems because, as you have said, that he can't run, and I've never denied that he can't run. I have just said after midterms, I don't know how they explain to the man that he can't run. Well, they have now figured it out, that since he just turned 80, that he is too old to run for president again. And evidently, this is a very sore subject with Sleepy Creepy Joe. Because I guess when this came up again, I guess they've been hounding on it since last week or whatever. There have been reports, and I quote, so Chase, cover your little virgin ears, and if there are any children listening to this, this is a quote. I guess he screamed throughout the Oval Office, and like several people heard him, that he knew exactly how old he was.
He's aware of it.
Yeah.
It'd be about the only thing he's aware of.
I was like, oh my. So Joe's got those problems as well. So the border and his age are an issue. But again, even if I truly think that someone in the inner circle either has massive amount of dirt on Joe, or they know that there is a real true like senile or some type of mental health Alzheimer's issue that hasn't been released, and that if they really do it, that is what they will have to use to keep him from running. But again, when we say that, the only person they have is Hillary.
Yeah,
I know I said that last week, but I mean, like, so I don't know.
He's just old and senile. It's that simple. He may have some form of Alzheimer's. I don't know.
But, I mean, I'm just saying, I think there's some documented evidence or something.
Yes.
If they actually get him to bow out.
What's shocking to me is I believe in his mind, he thinks he has done the best job and is the best president in history. In his mind, he thinks this is amazing.
Oh my God. He was bragging all over himself today because inflation was like down to 7.1%.
Great.
Instead of 7.6. And oh yeah, I mean, he has literally solved all the world's problems. I mean, he does think that he is the greatest president that's ever been. But so, and then the Fed, because of inflation, like the Fed is convinced we are headed for a big recession because they increased the rate by 0.5% again today, and they said that there is more to come in 2023.
Yeah, and that's I mean, historically speaking, we've had a period of very low interest rates, but they can continue to go up as long as inflation continues to go up. And the Fed, until inflation simmers, they're going to continue to raise interest rates, and that's a challenge for a lot of people across the country, whether it's a home loan or trying to buy a home or anything that you're dealing with, businesses that are levied a little further than ideal just to function. Those interest rates are going to put a lot of people under, period.
Yeah. So there's that. And then a new poll came out today that shows DeSantis over Trump, which there was only like 200 people in this poll. And then if you put DeSantis up against Biden in this poll, they tie. So I don't have a whole lot of faith in this poll. I do find it interesting that on CNN, they're saying that Trump is no longer going to run, that he's going to bow out because he hasn't had any events or anything. I cannot see Trump announcing that he was going to run and then bowing out. Like I don't know.
I agree.
I can't see a world where that happens.
But it's odd he hasn't been back on.
Well, I think it's odd that he hasn't done anything since the Georgia election because he did say when he announced, and I know Dale didn't get to read the speech, that he wasn't going to have any events until after the Georgia runoff. And so he said that, but the Georgia runoff's done and Herschel got beat and whatever. But so I do think that's a little weird, but I don't put a whole lot of faith in that poll because number one, it was only like 200 people and it was whatever. But I do find that funny or interesting, not funny, interesting that CNN said that. But there's nothing. If DeSantis is going to run, he is holding his cards very firmly to his vest because there has been nothing. He is not even he gets asked every day, multiple times a day. It's the same answer.
I think it's better for him to let Trump make the next move and then make decisions. Right. I think it's good where he's at.
I mean, I think, and everybody said when they were talking about this, DeSantis is doing everything right. He's picked the right issues. He's, in terms of the woke stuff, he's did a great job with the hurricane. I mean, he's doing all the right things. Again, like I said last week, and I do believe this, the only thing that Trump has going for him, other than he's got his core people, but the one thing is there is nothing else that they can drag out. It's all out there. They've literally dogged him.
The trash is there,
right? I mean, there's nothing else. So,
and you're convinced that there's something there on DeSantis.
I think there is, and especially if he doesn't. Trump said he had it, made this public statement.
But that could be part of the reason that DeSantis is quiet. I have these are all just speculation. I have no idea. But
again, I think whether Trump has something on him or not, Trump says he does, whatever. Regardless of that, I do think that when you put that man under a microscope, like they will, because it doesn't matter. The mainstream media believes that he's the one that they are afraid of running for president next time. So if he announces, they will dissect him just like they did Trump and do all the same shit.
He's got a crazy impressive resume, but there's going to.
I am a little hesitant when they put him under that microscope. Okay. What might be there?
We're running low on time, but you got to talk about your boyfriend, Mr. Crypto.
No, Mr. Crypto is not my boyfriend, but this is the other bullshit. So the FTX scandal. Yesterday, Sam Bankman-Fried, which I think is fried like his hair, but anyway, whatever his name is. He had agreed to testify via Zoom for Congress. And all these Republicans, there was going to be hours of testimony, which all of this was going to be under oath that could only help the case against this man, all this stuff, it was all going to come out. And because of, and y'all say this is conspiracy theorist, and I don't care, because he was the second largest Democratic donor other than Soros and then him in this last election, the Democrats had the U.S. law officials, DOJ, whoever, put pressure on the Bahamian government to go pick that man up and place him in custody hours, the night before he was supposed to give this testimony. This is the first time in history anyone having to do with any U.S. law has ever prohibited someone from going under oath and testifying. I mean, this is crazy.
And if he would have went under oath and testified, that's a prosecutor's dream.
It's all admissible in the actual court case.
Yeah.
And because they did not want hostile Republicans pointing out all this shit, the $40 million that he donated, that he stole from all that. They just go and have him picked up. And they haven't even asked for him to be extradited yet.
Now, if you're a Democrat, you think, well, that's a pretty smart move. You have to give them credit. They were thinking about that one.
Sorry, no good for nothing, people. I mean, how would you feel? And I'm not talking about the celebrities that put in money on this, but I'm talking about like the regular American families that invested in this and now they've lost God knows how much, whatever.
And I can feel sorry for them, Ryan, but they have to know that if you're jumping on crypto, you're jumping on a bandwagon that's riding pretty fast, and you're going to probably get hurt.
I'm not saying I feel sorry for them for losing them. I feel sorry for the fact, because they're never going to get their money back anyway. What I am sympathetic to is that now all of that testimony is not going to happen because the Democrats didn't want to come out. That is what, if I was them, I would like go to Washington and like storm their offices and be like,
now, don't say that. You're going to get yourself in trouble. You cannot.
No, I'm not talking like storm. I'm talking like go into their offices and be like, why the hell would you do this? Like, you can go see your elected officials.
Yes. Don't storm. Just go in and visit them.
You can go see them. That's what they're supposed to be there for.
So I'm sympathetic to the fact that when they invested, they didn't know they didn't even have a chance. There was no chance the way this company is being run. It was a Ponzi scheme times 100. They had no hope. Zero.
No, and like the guy who was court appointed to like be Sam Bankman-Fried now or whatever, like he testified and he said, this is just old-fashioned embezzlement. Like all there is to it. Like he said, I mean, I'm talking about that was his words, old school embezzlement. No cover up, no nothing. This man just took these funds and used them for whatever in the hell he wanted to. He said, I've never seen anything like this before.
We're just going to refer to him as your little freaked out boyfriend, Crypto Boy.
No. Crypto Boy is not my boyfriend. That boy is ugly.
The only other thing I wanted to touch on is the Twitter coverage and Elon.
Oh, I don't even the Twitter files. Like we're on drop 16.
Yeah. Do you realize there's no coverage coming from the mainstream? It's Fox and the Garage station. That's it.
Okay, but the Garage News and Fox, they don't even say what's in it. It's just like Elon dropped Twitter files number 67. I mean, like they don't even like give you a detailed synopsis of what it says.
Ryan's got a point.
I'm serious. They don't.
Well, Chase, you're welcome to come in here if there's anything that we misstated or you'd like to give us. Please do.
I mean, I'm not as researched on most of the topics that you covered, but I didn't see anything that stood out as not 100% on. I'm only hearing about this crypto fraud right now, but yeah, you hear Fox keep on talking about, Twitter Leak 5 just dropped, and I wish they'd like maybe take an hour of programming and just dissect everything that was dropped in it, rather than just say it was dropped. That'd kind of be helpful, you know?
Or like give the freaking highlights at least. I mean, literally, it's just like what Chase said. Elon Musk dropped Twitter files number 5 today. Okay, next. I mean, like, what was in it? Because like I'm not gonna get on Twitter and read through all that shit. I'm not.
No, and you know what's interesting to me is you had said this a long time ago, Ryan, that Fox is pretty much shut Trump out or ignored him for how long? Very long time. Mm-hmm. But they don't even make mention of him. Not good, not bad, nothing. Just like he's gone.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, like the way that the media, including Fox, I'm sure the Garage people aren't like this, but have decided to handle Trump is they are just not going to talk about him. Like
what's their incentive for that? Why are they?
Because I think they think that he got elected and that he almost got reelected because of all the media coverage that everybody gave him. Because like It's the old saying that, you know, even bad press is good press or whatever. I mean, I think that they are firmly believe that that's the reason that he got whatever. And now I think the stupidest thing that Trump has done so far is Elon has let him back on Twitter and he won't go because he's so stubborn. That is what got him. Like those tweets, whether you hated them, liked them, whatever, that is what got him to where he is. And nothing against Truth Social, but It's not Twitter. It's just not.
No,
And they're not
I
going to.
belong to it, but
They're not going
never had
to.
it.
They're not going to let him back on Facebook. So he better, if he's really going to run, he better accept Elon's invitation and get his ass back on Twitter, because that's the only way that he's going to get anything out, because the mainstream media is literally going to black that man out. He does not exist. It is not happening. It's nothing. There is no Trump.
I've got a point here. It's that you guys keep thinking he wants to run for re-election, and I understand why anyone would want to run for re-election, want to be president again. But keep in mind, this man is independently wealthier than most humans could ever hope to be. He doesn't have to be president. He's got other businesses that are working for him.
Well, I agree. I that was like my whole reason that I really got on the Trump bandwagon to begin with, because just of what Chase said, and I posted this, I've talked about it. You only run for, like, you have to be a little kind of deranged or something to want to be president, because it's not a fun job. Okay, it's just not. But like, normally it's because you want money or power or influence or what. He had all those things. And I truly believe, and I don't know so much, the first time he thought that he could help fix America, and he did. I mean, his policies did help fix America in a lot of ways, and he did make great strides in so many different areas. But I think it was really, he just like, because you could go back, even in the late 80s, the 90s, whatever, he would talk about running, and he was like, if I ran, it's because this country is going to hell and all this other. So I think it was like everybody's talking about how Elon's the greatest patriot for buying Twitter and releasing all this, whatever. Trump, I think, was very big patriot and really wanted to help America and Americans. And that was kind of my draw to him. Now, this time, I think it's a little more for revenge.
Yes, it's all about revenge. And I think the first time, you're right, he's a patriot, and I will stand behind his policies like no other, and probably the best policy that I've been aware of in my lifetime that he had implemented while he was in there. And I appreciate what he did. I think in the initial one, there's a little bit of ego that came into it, but at this point, it's revenge, and then a little bit more revenge. No question. Congratulations on the longest current event in our history.
Yeah, thanks. Great.
And I can promise about that. I can promise you the main topic may get a little. This is just going to be a longer episode. The night that Clifton has something going on, he's going to have to abandon us.
Well, I'm going to be real quick on BTRJLA stuff. Sign your kids up before December 31st for 2023. Go to btrjla.com. We'll have another points update Sunday. All of the Louisville points should be in that update. They got them to us. We're still waiting on Kansas City, but all the Louisville points should be up there. Most of the shows from the last weekend have already sent in their points. They should be up there. So, like, we're trying to keep them as up to date as we possibly can, because we know the end of the year is upon us. All this stuff. I want to thank our top 10 jacket donors for 2022. Magnus Family, Ranch House Design, South Texas Show Series, which, by the way, she's having a show this weekend in Kingsville. I'm judging if y'all want to go. Bullseye Ranch, Reaper Logics, our top 10 award sponsors, Ellis Beefmaster, Crown Stone, Leonard Truck and Trailer, who again, Clint, thank you for being the largest BTR Jelly sponsor of the year, Stock Show Auctions, and Rockin' W. Angus. Those were our sponsors for 2022. We need sponsors for 2023 if you're interested. And I am going to give the top 10 overall lamb right now. Piper Liska with 510, Yuma, Arizona is first. Rose Davies, Filer, Idaho, second. Adele Simpson, Eager, Arizona, third. Lakin Rookstool, I think, Wamego, Kansas, next. Montgomery Bertram, Wheeling, West Virginia. Paisley Carlson, Orland, California. Addison Zerbach, Roseburg, Oregon. Gabrielle Rote, Carmel, Indiana. Mason Rookstool, Wamego, Kansas. And Zane Downey of Whitehall, Montana.
Congratulations to our top 10 lamb, and thank you for the 2022 sponsors. I have a public service announcement.
Imagine that.
You do not need to smuggle ShowFresh H2O across the border. You do not need to be concerned that you are funding the Chinese Communist Party when you purchase ShowFresh H2O. Pick ShowFresh H2 up at your local supply trailer or order online at swampfox.com. This is an American-made product that ensures maximum hydration when on the road or at the show. ShowFresh H2O, we appreciate your support. And if you enjoy listening to this podcast, please give ShowFresh H2O a try.
Like, literally, I don't know how these people got in contact with you, but y'all are literally like a match made in heaven. Like,
Water.
I mean, seriously, like, I bet they have
send an email. I don't know. And sometimes I miss
I bet
emails,
they have a life-size cutout of you in their supply trailer or whatever, wherever they make all this stuff in the United States. I bet like you're like got a life-size cutout there, Mr. Maybe you should get a crown and a sash, Mr. ShowFresh H2O. You could wear it.
I'm good. Water. Okay, it's on to breed purity, and that's why we brought Chase in. He has some thoughts and some opinions on this, as do Ryan and I. But when we say breed, go ahead.
I'm going to give you my thoughts right now, and then I'm going to sign out. There is no such thing as breed purity.
You're done. There is no breed.
Thank you.
So it's just for definition, you're saying that all breeds are crossbreds?
To some extent, yes.
Okay, that's fair enough. And that is going to come into play, and I guess we started off and just what Ryan said, whether you call them full bloods or purebred animals, do they actually represent true pure genetics? And there is no question, if we look back into history, and I can go back to the 80s, just in my lifetime, the later 80s, there was a huge, and I'm going to use the cattle as an example on this one. We're going to hit the other species as well, but there was a huge draw towards single trait selecting for hip height or frame size, bigger. And at that time, there was some blood testing, maybe when a breed or when an animal's pedigree was in question, but there were breeders out there that were pretty wise to the blood typing, and they were pretty wise in how they were going to bring those in. And I can assure you, in a lot of our mainstream breeds right now, during the 80s, maybe even into the early 90s, there was a pretty big influx of genetics from other breeds that were incorporated and registered as purebreds. I know you find that hard to believe that somebody's going to do that, but there's no question we made huge.
This just proves what I said earlier. There is no such thing as breed purity. Done.
But we're going to go way beyond that. And Chase, I want you to use an example just to kind of get us started. So we have what we call traditional breed characteristics, and during Skillathon preparation for Chase this year, he had to incorporate breed identification and breed characteristics and breed history. And generally speaking, and again, we're going to use that. Let's say cattle for this. If we have to use the traditional colors. We put 5 pictures of black cattle out there that all look similar. It's pretty hard to determine what they are. So we go back to the original colors. In other words, a Simmental is the old traditional cream or yellow and white. And then we go back to Limousine, a solid red, and just their traditional colors. But Chase, in certain species, there's been changes in all of them. But from when you studied the breeds, the traditional breed characteristics via pictures and evaluated the history of those breeds, which species, when you got to Louisville, was the most different, hardest to say, wow, this one's a Southdown, or this one's a Shropshire, or this one's a Hereford, or this one's a Angus, or this one's a Duroc, or this one's a Yorkshire? Which of those species was the most difficult or has changed the most from their traditional characteristics?
For me, it would have to be the Cheviot.
Okay, or the sheep in general, just in general, not a breed. Okay.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about you looking at them, their traditional characteristics, and what they originally looked like and what they look like now. We're trying to bring an unbiased, independent opinion in. Ryan and I may have some biases.
Okay. Doubling back to specifically that Cheviot, when I first saw pictures of Cheviots, I thought I had a pretty good picture in my head of them. I studied the traditional breeds for about maybe 5 months, felt like. And then maybe a week before we're about to head down to Louisville, Dad gives me a Kentucky Skillathon practice test. And I take it, and I'm like, oh, this one's easy. It's a monodale. It's a Cheviot on a Columbia. It had that Cheviot head and was real big and framey. And I'm thinking, easy peasy. And he comes through and checks it to see if I got the answers right. And he says, no, that's a Cheviot. And I'm thinking, not a chance. That thing is massive. And he said, no, that's just how sheep are nowadays. They're all that big. And I'm thinking, oh no, I've been memorizing sheep breeds by size.
Yeah, and there's no question, Chase, and we'll talk about this when we get into the individual species, but we've made, and we talk about the breeding / frame sheep, we've made them really, really big. And obviously there's no way we could make the progression we've made or they've made in the sheep business. And I'm not just going to pick on sheep. We're going to talk about all species. And this isn't trying to be negative and not saying that here's what we need to do to change it. Just discuss what it is and be aware of what's out there and maybe discuss it amongst yourselves, those that are listening. But if we think about the size differences that we've made in, let's use the frame sheep or breeding sheep as an example, it's off the charts. And from an original genetic base within a breed, it's pretty darn difficult, if not impossible, to make those advancements without bringing in other breeds, crossbreeding to make them bigger, whether it be a Columbia, whether it be a Suffolk, or any breed that maybe fits in there that within a couple generations we can get it close enough to that original breed type or that original breed look. But before we go down that path, and we've got a lot, I've got a lot that I want to hit on there. Is there a purpose? Maybe we should look at the big picture. And Ryan, is there, when you're out judging cattle shows, I think you could agree with this. We're making a lot of the cattle as judges. You could take some of the blame. I could take a lot of people could. But
why are you blaming me for this shit?
Well,
I have nothing to do with it.
I've judged cattle shows with you. I've watched you. We tend to make them all look at least somewhat similar when we get to champions of our breed divisions. Not necessarily.
Whoa.
Oh, my.
Whoa. Listen here, Buttercup.
Go ahead.
No, I am the one that says, every show that good ones and great ones come in, all shapes, sizes, colors, and kinds, you just got to appreciate them for what they are. I don't try to make anything look. I am the last person that tries to make them all look the same. I think they should have similar characteristics.
No,
yes.
The only thing you care about is how, like the pig thing, is that they're colored like a Berkshire, but they're the same body type that you're always using. And you will use an off breed before anyone. But those off breeds that you're using are not traditional characteristics. They're just colored like the off breed.
I am not there to classify. I am there to judge the animals that come out into the arena to me on that day.
I agree with that, but they are all of a similar body type. When you tag,
you can sum this up any way you want. And I'm just going to state for the record that the fact that I think it's funny. I'm not putting word into Chase's mouth. I think it's funny that he thinks that the sheep are the ones that have gone the farthest, because I'm just going to tell you, when I was a small child, I was always told that the sheep people taught the cattle people how to cheat in all areas. So I'm just saying, I thought that was funny. But in the cattle world, the reason that there is no such thing as true breed purity, in my opinion, is because we wanted, I'm not saying me or whatever, but somehow this industry decided that they all needed to be black. And we know that there was only one way to do that, and it was not by keeping the breeds pure.
This is correct. And there is an underlying reason on the commercial level. When feeder cattle are sold and even market cattle, there was usually a premium, I'm not saying deserved or undeserved, for black hide. And maybe that pushed into the show ring. I don't know. But you're right. They all did want to become black, but a lot of the breeds opened up their short arm plus or appendix programs or low percentages to incorporate.
Every breed now has a percentage program of some point.
Yes. And for various reasons.
Right. Yeah.
And I think some people used to say back when they opened it up, well, we're just legalizing what people are already doing.
And I mean, it's whatever too. But when that push, and see, you talk about how we should be back more towards the commercial and whatever it was, the commercial industry that decided everything needed to be black. So that's why all the breeds change colors. So there you go. Have at it, big boy. But when you do that, then just what you're trying to blame me for is making them all look the same.
Not you personally, just judges in general in the ring. And I'm guilty of it as well. I have a certain type that I like.
When you go to make them all black, there's no way that you're going to keep breed purity at almost any level, in my opinion, because it is what it is. If you're not that, if your breed is red and white, like we'll take Simmentals, and you make them black, like we did, then that's not a real Simmental in the end. And I'm fine with it. I showed at Junior Nationals, there was 2 black heifers the first year that I ever attended, and I had one of them. So I don't care. I'm all for it. But like that when you go to do that, there's no way to keep the breed purity that a lot of people talk about or think and all this other stuff. And so that's just part of it. That's just the way this has evolved. And so, and then like in some of these breeds, which again, I'm not saying this is a bad thing or disagreeing with it, but like, 7/8 is in some breeds is considered to be a purebred. Now, a lot of people could argue that that's not right.
That a purebred and full blood should basically be the same.
Right. Yeah,
they should be all that breed.
I mean, and again, nothing against the keys, because I show key. I mean, I love keys. I've shown keys, whatever. Like, you can look at a key across the pasture and register as one. I mean, basically.
You can. It's kind of like the sheep. It just doesn't.
I mean, and I think this is a fascinating topic, and I do want your and Chase's, like, detailed things, but I mean, like, just trying to get, when you go to change something, like they have in the cattle, and like you bringing up the Berks and all this other stuff, there's only so much of that breed purity. It's going to go away by the wayside to a great deal, is what I'm getting at.
It is. And I like your analogy on the black hide coming into the other breeds. And Chase, maybe you can help us. Are there any other breeds that traditionally were solid black other than Angus?
Well, I mean, off the top of my head, there's Wagyu, but I couldn't imagine anyone trying to breed that into their show stock.
No, and that came via the dairy industry. The Japanese are just smart enough to market it as beef with crazy levels of marbling. So I think, Ryan, that's a very good point. That I can't think back. I'm sure there is, and I'm sure there's black and whites like a belted Galloway or things that had the black pigment.
But they try to get them all solid black, basically, is what they've tried.
Solid black and polled. It comes back to the Angus breed. There's no question and no way around that.
And I'm not going to try to like step on your toes, because I know you're Mr. Angus Breeder America and all this other stuff. Just because Angus are black and polled, don't think that their breed's exactly pure either.
No, I think they made some progress on making them.
Yes,
taller.
I said that, Angus people. I did say that. You can send me the hate mail. I said it. Y'all ain't off the hook either.
If we go back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they were belt buckle tall, and all of a sudden in the 80s, they were 65 plus. I mean, they were monsters, absolute monsters. And it didn't happen from that original genetic pool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, magic. Absolute magic. While we're on cattle, and then we're going a lot of different directions. Okay, Ryan, I'm going to use a cattle show that has multiple breeds in it. Let's say we have mains, maintainers, high percentage Angus. Simmentals, main Angus, low percentage Simmies, limb flex, all of these. Okay, and I take 5 of those. Let's say a percentage Simmy, a key, limb flex, a short arm plus, and a main Angus, or you can put any 5 in there that can be solid black. I put those 5 out there in the ring and ask you to tell me what breed each of those are. Can you do it?
I'm going to answer this like I think we had something similar in question answer. I think depending on which ones you pick, yes. There's a lot of times when at shows that they're a breed that you have to have so many head to make a breed, otherwise you go into AOB. And a lot of those in those classes, I don't have to ask the kid what their animal. I can pretty much make an educated guess, but then there are times I'm like, what breed is this one? And so depending on the 5 representatives that you pick out, I could probably get all 5 of them, or I probably couldn't get any of the 5 of them, because you could go through and pick in those different breeds at any show of any size, 5 that look almost like they could be the same genetics in those Correct. 5 different breeds. Or you could go find 5 different ones that one definitely looks like a limousine. That one definitely looks like a maintainer. That one definitely looks like solid black Simmental. I mean, it just depends which ones you pick.
No, I think that's a really, really good answer, and I think that summarizes it well. I would say that if you were to find those that are a direct parent that's more traditional, out of a traditional Simmental or more traditional Maine or whatever, I think you could probably land on those and get pretty close. But I'm gonna go back that I don't know that the percentage of those that are showing and especially winning is very high. So I think
I agree with that. I don't think it's very high. No.
Yeah.
But
when we take our breed champions and come back in, I'm going to tell you that I've got to obviously remember what breed they came out of, or listen to that announcer when they're coming in the ring. And obviously you're going to remember them if you used in breed champion, what breed they were tied to. But if you didn't know, I'm telling you, I couldn't do it on most situations. It just is what it is. And that's where I want to bring another point in. So if we're making all the breeds look, I think we can agree that they're becoming more similar. There's no question that that's happening in terms of their body type and the look, and not even if they're black, whether it's a Hereford or a Roan Shorthorn or whatever it may be. In general, we're migrating to a certain body type and a certain look, and by doing that, it's difficult. So traditionally speaking, Angus were high marbling, high maternal, Charolais high muscle, high growth. What we could go on breed characteristics, and Chase would be better at this than myself. But now that we're migrating all one direction, what happens? Not necessarily what happens. If we were breeding livestock and we wanted to bring in maternal traits, we kind of knew in general what in a crossbreeding program, what breed to go grab a hold of. If we wanted a terminal sire, we kind of knew what breed to go. I don't know that we can do that anymore. We have to look at individuals within each breed, because I think there's so much genetic diversity within the breeds that you can find a terminal one, you can find a maternal one. It's not categorized. And Chase, is there any value to a cross species, whether it's hogs or sheep or cattle or whatever it may be? Do you see value in trying to salvage those true breed representatives that are as pure as we can find?
I believe so, because these purebreds, if you've selected for generations in this one breed for, let's say, maternal traits, it's going to be a whole lot faster. Say you've got your just general crossbred program, you want to bring some maternal traits in, you just grab a sire from that breed and go for it. But you need to have that breed maintained and kept pure for that sire to be assuredly worth something. If you're a hog breeder who, now would probably never happen in a million years, if you went and bought a Michon because you thought you could get massive litter sizes and the thing only gives you 8 piglets, you're going to think, what the heck? You need to have these purebreds available. That way you can bring the genetic diversity into your crossbreds. But to do so, you just need to keep those outlying purebreds pure.
And do you think there are the pure ones still out there that you could go get in almost a conservatory type thing? Or do they even exist anymore?
It's hard to say they exist in any number. When I went to the show, I wouldn't tell you yes. But
no,
if you
I don't think
they're not at the show.
No, they're hiding in the woods of Tennessee somewhere in a holler that they just have bred the same Duroc genetics on top of each other for 50 years. Maybe something like that. I don't know. We've got semen from a long time ago that we could pull back on and do things. And it's interesting while we're talking about that, because we have some situations where the National Swine Registry went back and tried to make, I guess, come up with a pure genetic line that they can use as a baseline to determine how pure hogs are when they're registering them. And as of right now, and I under the National Swine Registry, each breed's a little bit different, I believe, on what percentage they have to be matching their purity. Let's just use 90%. So when you send DNA in, if they come up, they're only 89% pure and the cutoff is 90, that hog's not registered. But it's interesting, the way they developed their base was took a large genetic pool, and I couldn't even tell you from where, and it grouped up real tight in one little circle. If you just think about a sheet of paper, the bottom right grouped up in a real small circle, 95% of the Durocs or the Hampshires or whatever. But then they grab some of the modern sires and what's popular right now, and those things are scattered all over the page, which tells you they were obviously crossed up in a very, within a generation or two, and they don't fit that tight genetic match that we have down in that highly intense group of dots down that bottom right portion of that paper. So they took that center and what they consider to be here's the most likely pure genomic we could come up with. And now they test everything against that. And each year, I believe they bump up the percentage purity that hogs have to reach to be registered. And that's pretty interesting. This happened maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I couldn't be sure. And I can assure you it wasn't popular with some. There were lots of arguments about it. Lawsuits were threatened. It was a battle. But once they established that baseline, and let's assume, and I originally said, well, I don't think you can come up with a baseline, because I originally thought we've got to go find that one individual that we think's pure. And I don't know how you're going to do that. But when they take a large number of samples and they all group up real tight, in theory, that should probably be bringing us back closer to purity, especially when there's a bunch of outliers in addition to that. So now that I believe in the baseline, that is a brilliant way to try to get things back to pure. And I think over time, you're probably going to concentrate those true pure genetics back to where they once were. So that's just interesting to me on how the direction that they're taking. Ryan,
can I throw something out here on this part of it? Okay. So you were asking Chase, should we have these, purebred, full bloods, whatever, all this other stuff. So I'm just going to share a personal story. And I don't even know if this program still is. There used to be something called a rolled gold Berkshire, I think.
Yes, sir. Berkshire Gold program.
Berkshire Gold something. I remember what it is. But yeah, something like that. Anyway, so when I was on the judging team, we went to one of these places that they were all about this, like every animal there was in this Berkshire Gold, whatever.
They would get a premium when they'd sell them that was pretty large as market animals, not show animals.
And I'm just telling you right now, that was the worst hog workout of my life. Like, I thought I was going to literally shoot myself. But those animals do not look like the Berkshires that I used to win shows. I'm just telling you. It does not, no. So I don't know how we went from the Berkshire Gold to what out there kicking everybody in the ass in the showroom right now. But yeah, I don't care how many generations it was. It wasn't.
You know how we went there. You're lying.
It was not because of the improvement of the breed purity in the Berkshires. Is all I'm going to say about it all. No.
Were those Berkshires kind of jowly, a little sloppy, maybe?
Oh my God! I couldn't find a good one all day. I don't think there was one.
I bet Dr. Skaggs appreciated what they were, though.
Oh my God! I mean, like literally, it was. I still have nightmares of that workout. There was one Charlet workout and the Berkshire Gold workout, and I'm like, seriously, I could not mark anything right all day. Like Dale knows how hard I am on myself. Anyway, like I was about to like literally lose it, and I was like, we just have to go. Like, and like Skaggs was like a big believer in that. Like, you always needed to find a good class to end on that, like most people, got right or whatever. And like, I was like, we'll be here till 2040. So let's just end it. It's not happening for me today. Let's go. Let's just get the hell out of here. Not working. But yeah, oh God, no. But
I can only imagine.
Oh, it was terrible. But like those things happen. And then the other thing that you were talking about on the Charlets, that they were known for muscle and all this other stuff, and how we're kind of trying to make them all look the same and all this stuff. There have been several times that because I follow Charlet shows, like I love Charlets, whatever, and so I've heard several times in the past couple years at big national shows the judge say something about how or allude to the fact that maybe we've gone too far and we should go back to what made Charlets profitable and wanted and more muscle and all that basically their opinions, maybe we've gone a little too flat. And so I think there is some of that regardless of species. But again, you know, when you're swinging this pendulum, it's going to go back and forth. And so maybe we have got to a point in the cattle. I don't know about, in the other ones, that maybe like we have made them all too much the same. And maybe we should try to get some of those breed characteristics back in those breeds that, what they were originally ideally profitable and made them wanted and popular and all of those certain types of things. And I also say good luck with all that. But yeah.
I think it'd be a challenge. And again, I think it may be good. I don't know that we should or shouldn't, or if we even could do it, but you're right. I have heard some of those comments in the Charolais or other breeds. And I appreciate that, because we do tend to go one direction, and it just kind of is what it is. So I don't know where it's going to end up.
And I would also like to state for the record, since I am Miss Berkshire America and use them all the time, I prefer the ones that are in the show ring now to the Berkshire Golds. Just let me tell you right now. I don't care what they are. I like them. I think.
Speaking of Berkshires, okay, here's a good example of what Chase had brought up, that maybe we should preserve some of those pure lines. Like, Ryan, I don't know what farm you're at, but I hope those are still in play. And
I do not.
I do. I want them to be there, because those traditional Berkshires marbled phenomenal. And Chase can get on a rant here shortly about.
If I would have had a weapon of mass destruction, that whole farm would have been wiped off the planet.
Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is, I have a former student that resides locally here owns a butcher shop and takes high-end meat cuts up into Chicago to the high-end restaurant trade, and has been very, very successful. But he's wanting to focus on high marbling, high eating quality products. And on the hog side, he's asked me several times, where can I find a boar or purchase some gilts that are going to help the marbling? And so you've got to find your traditional Berkshire hogs, or even some of your old school Duroc hogs that had tremendous meat quality. And I've tried to set him up and locate some of these, and I haven't spent a lot of time doing it, but I'll tell you what, it's hard to find them. I'm not saying they don't exist, but there's not many people out there that still have maintained those, and assumably because there's not many people looking for them, but they can serve a purpose. And I think that is a perfect example of it. Chase, what do you think? Would you like to insert some more marbling or eating quality into pork?
Yes. Hands down, yes. Ryan, I don't care if they look like the worst hogs you've ever seen. I don't care if they give the worst day of your life. They taste good when they're on the plate. And to me, I can have the hog that tastes good on my plate in my breeding stock, or the hog that's going to win me the blue ribbon at the fair. Me personally, who wants a good pork burger at least once in his life, is going to pick the one that tastes good.
Not as concerned about where the show ring is as usual. Well, that's
why we have you on here, Chase, so we have differing opinions.
And he is very discouraged that the swine industry doesn't appear to care about meat quality. And I try to tell him that they do, but I can't point out where they're really putting commercially a premium to try to get more marbling and more eating quality. And he may be correct on that one.
Chase, just eat beef. It'll be fine, honey.
That's my only solution for now.
There you go.
Okay, so we've talked about cattle, we've talked about swine a little bit, and Ryan, we used Berkshires as an example. I'm not sure, but I bet you've used a Hereford hog. You might have even used a Tamworth before, and
I have in the top 5. Yeah,
and I'm telling you, those ones that you used, I'm just telling you, they look nothing like what. And I didn't see them, but I promise you, they did not look anything like a true Hereford or Tamworth.
I'm going to agree with that.
And I am telling you, you are absolutely 100% correct.
Now, they may have been the right color.
Or I would not have used them.
But you're okay using them. So with that said, we're not, as you stated, and sometimes as judges, you worry about whether they're ugly headed or good looking headed or whatever, but not relative to breed character, just your opinion. Where some actually want to try to make them, when they're judging, look like the breed they represent. And that's a slippery path. Kind of like when that superintendent, Ryan, says, hey, if something comes in here that doesn't fit that breed, you're supposed to excuse them. What do you tell them?
No, I said, that's above my pay grade. I'm not doing that shit.
More times than not.
No.
I'm going to tell you more times than not, when that one comes in, you're probably using the damn thing. Not only are you not excusing them from the ring, but because they may have a little crossbred advantage, they may look a little better.
And again, that's like when they say, "Oh, if you think one's not in the right weight bracket, let us know." And well, nope, not doing that shit either. Whatever you sit in this ring, I'm judging. But again, like talking about heads and all this stuff, it's like I do like, and the best way that I can point this out is like I'm a big fan of American cattle, and so the American steers in Texas, which nobody else has these. I mean, like they don't even have them in Oklahoma, basically. So, but we have like several different breeds of American steers in Texas, and they're all crossbred with something. You know, Brahmins are crossed with something to get a Brahmin crossbred, hybrid, whatever, and that's all fine. And it's we have these validation rules, and they're supposed to reflect, or classification rules, that they're supposed to reflect this percentage of Brahmin and all this other stuff. And we have classification system, yada yada yada. But like, because classification is a 3-person panel, and you know, it's just an opinion. Sometimes ones slip in that are on that borderline. Okay. Which is fine, but a lot of times that works in your advantage, but sometimes it doesn't, because you look so far out and so far different that you don't fit. And so I think it's a slippery slope. I mean, and everybody rides it, and you know all this stuff. But there's a lot of times, especially at the Texas majors. And again, I know that the masses on this podcast can't relate to this, but there's a lot of times in those American breeds that there may be one that was questionable on classing that got in. More times than not, they don't win.
See, I would look at it another way, and I believe you, and I can see that. I used to say that a lot of at the Texas majors, and again, you have a 3-man system, and if one blackballs them, they're out, right, Ryan?
Right. It's 2-1. It's
okay.
2-1.
So they have to have the majority. I always tell people a lot of these breed classes are determined in the breed classification, whether they get in or not, because if you've got an Angus that's just a little too muscular and a little too going that direction, they may get blackballed, but maybe if you have one just right on the line that gets in, that one's going to look pretty good out there. So, but what you're saying, if they let one in that maybe was over the line, they don't usually get along, which surprises me a little bit.
I mean, not all the times, but I mean, sometimes it works against you. That's what I'm saying.
Got it. No, that makes sense. Well, let's talk. We talked about what the National Swine Registry is doing with their purity. I don't think there's as much, and again, I'm not talking about the appendix programs or the percentage programs or the plus programs in cattle, but in the purebred cattle, if I think about Angus cattle or Hereford cattle or just the what you want to call the purebreds or the full bloods, whatever you want to word it as, I don't think there's as much crossbreeding coming in now as there once was. And I had to do a little bit of research, and I was unfamiliar. Everything that I register in the Angus Association that originates as an embryo in Argentina, I have to do parentage verification on both the sire and the dam and make sure that the registries have that information for me to be able to register. I also assumed that in the Angus Association that was being done pretty commonly, where in all reality, I believe, and I hope I'm correct on this, if they're going to be an AI sire or used as an AI sire, then they want parentage verification. Or if they're going to be a donor cow, they want parentage verification. But if you just breed an Angus bull to an Angus cow, you don't have to go back and do parentage verification. I think other breeds are fairly similar. There's some variation there. But if we were to do parentage verification, Ryan and Chase, on every single animal that's registered, that would stop any crossbreeding from coming in, but whatever's there already is not going to go away. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some truth to that. And
so I think a lot of the associations, a lot of them are doing genomic testing. The majority of the cattle that are registered are genomic tested, so that's going to include parentage. So it's cleaned itself up to a certain degree. And it's interesting to me. And during a conversation I had with an Angus breeder, David Brown, he reminded me that there's probably less going on now than maybe historically, because of genomics. And he also brought up something, and I guess I was aware of it, but just didn't put my thumb on it. You have so much genetic variation within the breeds. For example, in the Angus, if you want a big-bodied, real moderate belly dragger, or if you want something that's a little more terminal or larger framed or whatever it may be, just about every type and kind, from EPD cattle to carcass cattle to maternal cattle, you have that within the Angus breed right now. So instead of going to a specific breed to look for a specific trait, and not just Angus cattle, but all species, I think we almost have to pay attention even within breeds. And I'm going to jump around a lot here. I can remember Landrace being thought of as a highly maternal breed. Our white breeds are usually maternal in the hog thing, but there are maternal lines of Landrace that you would traditionally think about, but there's some wild muscled and maybe even some stress carriers at one time in the Landrace that would be very terminally oriented. So we can take within any species, within any breed, I think you can find those individuals that might work in your crossbreeding program. So this goes against the fact that maybe we need to conserve or preserve specific pure breeds, but it also goes against the show rings making them all look alike. Fortunately, within some of our more popular breeds, there's breeders out there that have strong opinions, and they're going to breed for what they want, irregardless of what's going on in the show ring. And I think because of that, there's maybe not as much of an influx of crossbreeding coming into cattle right now, into what we call the pure breeds or the full bloods, as there was at one time. So that's intriguing to me. It's almost taking care of itself, where you're just not going to see quite as much of that. And consequently, I know the topic has been brought up, when I was researching this a little bit, I had people, when I explained to them what the National Swine Registry is doing in terms of breed purity, they say, well, why don't we do that in the cattle side? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's an extra cost or whatever. You could give a lot of reasons or excuses if you wanted to go that direction. But I think a lot of the rules and a lot of the decisions that are made, it just happens to be who's sitting on that board of influence of that association at that given time when it's brought up, or not allowed to be brought up even. So it's interesting to me that maybe the cattle at this point, to my knowledge, haven't taken on this breed purity thing, but maybe they don't need to, because we are going in a direction that I maybe I'm being naive, but I don't think it's there as much as it once was. Ryan, your thoughts? Is crossbreeding still coming into play into our purebreds like it once was?
I don't think it's as prevalent as it maybe once was. I think it's still there. And I'll be honest with you, and again, this is going to get me more hate mail, so this is going to be the greatest episode ever, but like, the reason that I don't think the cattle people are doing what the hog people are doing is because I think they would be absolutely embarrassed and shocked to see how far off we are.
How far off in regards to what?
Well, you're saying that they hog people did
I see in terms of your purity testing. You don't want to know the truth.
God, they don't want to know.
Yeah, I apologize.
Or they don't want the world to know.
No, and I can assure you, there's no question, when we tried to make the Angus cattle big, the Chiania, the Holsteins, they're there. They are absolutely there. Even with parentage testing right now, once it's there, it's there. You're not getting rid of it. But if you went to what the National Swine Registry is doing, that may upset the apple cart a little bit. I know within the Angus breed, there was some talk about, well, we have quite a bit of white showing up in front of the navel and things like that. And there's controversy. Should we allow it and change the rules, or should we not? There's a lot of those things going on that will continue. And it's going to be up to those board members at that time what they do or do not allow. So it's interesting to me, but I don't see as much. That doesn't mean that there's still not opportunity and it's not possible. And if it's possible and somebody can capitalize on it, it's probably happening at some level. I just think it's probably a little bit less than maybe it was at one time is my assumption anyway. And maybe I'm just being naive. And the fact that we have percentage programs in a lot of the breeds, so that they can just register them. And what's good about those, I think the percentage programs increase registration numbers, which increases dollars for the association. I think it increases divisions at the shows, so more kids have more chances of getting a buckler or a banner in a given division. So it's not a bad thing. it's interesting to me just discussing how it's evolved and maybe where it's at. And I know we're running long, and I know our producer Clifton has some time restraints, but you know what species we really haven't dove into very hard?
Yours.
Sheep of the world, not goats. I can talk about goats, but there really isn't. Dairy goats have their breeds. Boar goats are supposed to, or meat goats are boar goats, and our
being sarcastic.
God, our Kentucky meat goats. But I was going to mention goats a little bit, Ryan, because somebody asked me, is there such a thing as a pure boar goat or a full blood? We show full bloods, but guess what? When they came over here, Ryan, what were they breeding them to?
I'm not even. I was not involved.
They were stupid expensive. I think your
oh no, we had them. They were stupid expensive, but I was not involved.
So I think they were taking the boar bucks and breeding them to dairy, breeding them to anything, Spanish, anything they could. And
we had a lot of them Spanish ones. I promise.
So
we had a lot of them
because they were so expensive initially, they got bred to so many things. I'm not saying there wasn't some of those South African pure genetics that maybe I don't know. I really don't know if there is a true pure boar in this country. I'm sure you could bring maybe a recent import from South Africa where they're not.
I would be
about
skeptical about there being a pure one.
They don't look anything like the original South Africa boars.
No.
So maybe that would tell us that.
No.
Yeah, they're probably not there. Okay, let's go into the sheep
Still
thing.
smell as bad.
Market sheep in Texas, all classified. Market animals, all classified. Right, Ryan?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
We see classification up here. Here's a good example, and we're going to talk about the market side of sheep first. Louisville, the last 2 years, or at least a couple years ago, they classified the Suffolks, maybe all the breeds, in the ring. When the judge would pull them and go to the scale, they would.
The Suffolk classification at Louisville has been referred to as the Hunger Games.
Yes, the biggest crowd around the ring is when that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Cheering when one of them makes it. 1 out of 10, maybe.
Literally, I'm not joking. Yeah,
I get it.
So that is interesting, and it is a classification. You know what? And we really haven't talked a lot about classification, but there's been talk of a sheep association that was gonna remake the whole sheep registry, and they were gonna just basically start off with classifications. I don't care about your papers. I want them to look a certain way. And right now, and similar in some of the swine breeds, and similar if we go back in history in all species, guess what? The only proof we had to have that it was a purebred or to register. Yeah, you have to have a paper from a purebred sire and a paper from a purebred dam. And guess what? You've got a purebred offspring, even if that offspring maybe wasn't out of that sire or dam. They just took your word for it. They assumed you're being honest. I believe, and I'm not that familiar. I think in almost all of the sheep breeds right now, that's still how it is. And some of our hog breeds, that's still how it is. And technically, in the cattle, it's still how it is. But if you want to market and get a premium for your cattle, you're probably doing a little more testing. And so it's interesting to me. So on the market side of sheep, they're all classified. Maybe we should do some of that classification. Like in the North, it's usually papers if you're showing a purebred heifer, not a classification. I'm assuming heifers would have papers in Texas as well, Ryan. Just not the market.
There is no classification for breeding animals. It's all papers. Yep.
So if you have a paper and that thing looks nothing like its breed, it still shows?
Yes. Okay. Now you get protested, but
okay,
I mean,
got it.
And that happens a lot in our state. I'm not gonna lie, it happens.
And I can use Illinois State Fair as an example. If you're showing a breed steer, there is no classification and the breed steer. It's just you provide the papers and it's that breed. And again, if it doesn't look like that breed, you may get protested and complaints, but nothing ever seems to happen. And as long as it wasn't, I don't know, if you don't have those parents to go back and DNA, it's pretty hard to prove those things. So on the market side of sheep, they're all classified. And I'm assuming some weather dams and even some breeding sheep shows may be classified. But you do have what we call the registered breeding sheep, or more commonly referred to as frame sheep, that the only place I really ever see.
I'm not saying nothing about the frame sheep people because I'm getting enough hate mail at this episode already.
I spent some time with the frame sheep people this year, some good friends of mine. I'm all in on the frame sheep people. And I think we caught a little heat for not using the frame sheep champion. Irregardless, I like the frame sheep people and I appreciate what they're doing. especially
I don't
that
know
they-
them. I don't know them to like them, dislike them. I ain't saying shit. Nothing.
So we have frame sheep that are slick shorn, classified in wool or fitted, and those fitted frame sheep, I mean, they're monsters, and they're so good at carving them out to make them look like whatever they want that body shape to look like, and it's pretty amazing. But I mean, they're all so big, it's incredible. On the South Downs, there is some genetic information, I believe, during registration. And maybe I got the wrong information. I was talking to an individual about it, and they say they're going almost to the other extreme, where I don't think that we need to do so many tests that it costs a fortune to register, but they're saying it costs in excess of a couple $100 to register, I believe, a South Down because of the spider gene test and this test and that test and all those. I can't imagine that anybody's hardly registering anything, and South Downs are currently one of the more popular breeds. So we can definitely go too far with it. Do I think we should base our breed divisions or breed purity solely off of somebody signing a paper? Probably not. Chase, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm just saying that paper sometimes is not worth the paper it's printed on. Maybe, but what about
Chase?
them?
Does that make sense to you? That some of these, like in Suffolk sheep, to my knowledge, all you have to do is have say it's out of this sire and this dam that are registered, and it's automatically registered. Do you think that's a good idea?
Honestly, the sheep people would probably get into a riot if they were forced to actually play straight. But I think it's what you got to do if you want to conserve these pure breeds. Because to me, my biggest issue is they're bringing in these other breeds into purebred show rings and crossing them up. If you want to have a crossbred animal, take it to the crossbred ring. Don't bring it to that purebred ring and try and stomp on these purebreds that are trying to play by the rules.
Except my Berkshires. Y'all keep doing exactly what you're doing. I love you people. Y'all just rock on with your Berkshires. They're fine.
Take them to the crossbred ring. I don't care.
But I guess they'd have to come over to the weather side of the commercial show. I don't think frame sheep have a commercial show. Ryan, are you aware?
No, I don't think they do either.
But we have a crossbred or a weather dam show, whatever you want to call it, over on the market lamb side. So I guess they would have to migrate over there. But in agreement with Chase, I mean, those sheep at Louisville, I'm not saying that every breeder out there is crossbreeding their sheep. They may be purchasing sheep from others that have already been crossbred, but there are very, very few when I walk through the barn that I can say without much hesitation that is 99% South Down or 99% Suffolk or Hampshire or whatever it may be. Even the Dorpers are so crossed up right now. It's crazy. So we're going.
I ain't putting words in Dale or Chase's mouth, but what they're saying is what I was told when I was a small child, that the sheep people taught the cattle people how to cheat. That's what they're saying. They didn't say
Ryan,
it, but I'm saying it for them.
Ryan, I'll never disagree with you on that.
I'm just saying.
So Chase, you're disappointed when you got to Louisville and you actually studied those sheep breeds.
Disappointed is the wrong word. It just throws me for a loop. Because to me, it's just that you're taking these crossbred animals, like I said, into a purebred ring, and you're going to destroy anyone who comes there with another purebred, and that encourages everyone to bring.
Yeah,
these
right now,
crossbreds
Chase,
in.
it's gotten to that point where it's no longer are you stomping everyone because guess what?
Everyone's crossbred.
Yes.
And now you've lost that purebred gene pool that you were trying to maintain in the first place with an entirely separate class.
So maybe we should just have one show. No breeds, just throw them all together.
I mean, I feel like there should be some classes for people who bring purebreds to the ring, but I feel like you got to throw all those people who have some pretty clear crossed up animals.
If you're if there's a purebred Dorset breeder out there or South Down, whatever, and they've had their own line for 50 years, so they know every time you go out and buy one, you're taking a chance that that one's likely been crossed up somewhere in its pedigree. But if you had your own from 50 some years or however long you needed to keep them pure before they started crossing up a lot, and I'm sure it's been as long as the sheep had been domesticated or breeds existed, and you took those animals to the show ring right now, Chase, if you take a South Down of traditional characteristics, I'm going to go back to some of the pictures I remember seeing my brother and sister raising South Downs. They washed them in my parents' our basement of our house in the wintertime, going to the North American or the International in Chicago. I mean, here's a yearling South Down ewe, and she wasn't much over knee high. Where's that thing? That thing would be nursing off those Southdowns in the show ring today. It wouldn't work. Is what I'm getting at, Chase.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
feel
it
like
wouldn't
it's-
work just because they would be so different. There's no way that you can think about it. If you have a judge in there that says, okay, Southdowns, and Chase, you brought this up to me. When you read their traditional characteristics, Chase, what's it say about them?
Small, good maternal instinct?
Yeah,
They're just good across the board.
Yeah, that they had strong character, muscle, good maternal, low feed costs. And if you have a judge that comes in there and says, okay, I want to run 3 Southdowns to every Suffolk ewe, and that's going to make me more money because those 3 Southdowns require as much pasture as one big Suffolk. There's logic in that, and that makes sense if it's profitable. But right now, I think you could run any breed out there together, and there's just not that much difference. They're all in a similar category in terms of size and assumably then where maintenance requirements are. I don't know if there's a solution. And again, I guess as we are going way long, as we kind of wind down and summarize this, I thought it was an interesting topic. I knew Chase would want to sit in on this one, and Ryan was all on board for it. And certainly did not mean to offend anybody or point fingers at any breed associations or species, but I think it's good just to open our eyes and look what's out there in front of us and be realistic about it that, wow, this black gene has taken over the cattle side. That should maybe give us a little bit of a clue that maybe not everything's as it seems or exactly as it is. Just be aware of it. Doesn't mean we need to change it. Doesn't mean we could fix it if we wanted to. Same thing in the sheep. Same thing with Ryan's really trendy looking Berkshires that have nearly no Berkshire in them. It just is what it is right now. Not good, not bad.
Hush.
None of
Leave
those things.
my beloved Berkshire pigs alone, damn it. Quit meddling.
I'm going to make a call to Dr. Skaggs and find out. He would remember that breeder that you went to. And
I promise. I remember the breeder. I'm just not putting the breeder's name out on the podcast.
Okay. I would like to know because there's value in those genetics. I would like to source some of those genetics. For
again, if I'd had a weapon of mass destruction, them some bitches been dead that day.
Okay. In conclusion, Chase, Ryan, you have anything?
In conclusion, an hour and 21 minutes later of what we're talking about, my beginning of the topic, there is no such thing as breed purity, is the in conclusion. Thank you. It could have been like lovely little podcast about me hating the Democrats and like me saying whatever. But in all seriousness, I do think there's a lot of truth to what I say, that there's no such thing as breed purity anymore. I do think that it is something that nobody talks about. It's kind of like the elephant in the room, and I thought that's why it's a good topic. And I like putting things out there for other people to discuss amongst themselves. And again, we're not bashing anybody or any breed or any species or anything like that. But these things this is just what it is. And whether you want it to be the way it is, or you like Chase and you want it to go back to where we get more breed purity in, I mean, but unless we talk about it and admit that maybe there is a bigger issue about this than what, we want to admit, then nothing's going to change either way. So that's why I thought it was a good topic. And I do think it's a good topic, and I hope it does get people discussing amongst themselves. But, I again, as far as, I mean, we raise Charolais, we raise Herefords, we have crossbreds, whatever. I've probably raised an animal in almost every single cattle breed that ever hit a show ring at some point or another through my junior show career and all this other stuff. I think that most people do what they do to be the most profitable, the most successful, whatever, and all that other stuff. And again, I don't know how the lines got blurred in the other species as much as I do the cattle, but it can all, I can take it mostly back in the cattle, because I tell people all the time that, like, in terms of ethics and all this other stuff, like, once you put your little toe across that line, it's a lot easier to take another step and another step and another step and another step. But I can trace it back to when the origins of this, like I said earlier, is when we decided that everything needed to be black. And from then on, I think, again, just like I said, once you do one thing that maybe might be questionable to some, it's a lot easier to do it the next time. So there you go.
And it continues. Chase, any conclusions?
Would
on
you
this
like
one?
if y'all need my email to send all the hate mail to me, I'm fine with it. Thank you.
I will post it later for you.
That's great.
Chase,
Yes, sir.
anything you'd like to leave the audience with on this topic before we go to question and answer?
For me, I feel like breed conservancy is a very important thing to do to keep these very unique and important traits that have been bred for generations in some breeds that could just be lost in a couple generations of show ring crossbreeding, because you want to turn this thing that's had some unique, great traits about it just into an average frame sheep. Then you pass that off to the next guy who's looking for that unique trait, and all he's got's a frame sheep. So I feel like it's very important to conserve these breeds. And that's about where I'm going to leave it off.
Well, I appreciate your concern, but it ain't ever going to happen. Sorry.
Oh, you win. Hey, Temple Grandin advocates for it. She is a proud endorser of the Livestock Conservancy Association.
I didn't even know there was one.
Yes, it focuses on the most buck wild heritage breeds out there, ranging from poultry to cattle to goats to swine, and just.
Well, I suggest you give them a large donation monetarily to keep them alive.
Well, here's the thing: they'll give you premiums, like youth exhibitors. They'll give them premiums for exhibiting heritage breeds.
Interesting. Okay.
And then they'll get dead ass last in class. But next, moving on.
Their entry and all their expenses go into the show. But they will get a premium from somewhere. Okay, question and answer time. First two questions I got in a little bit of a rush, and Tyler submitted two questions, so I just pulled them both off of there. They were the most recent questions, probably from today even. I don't know when he submitted them. So here's a question for Ryan and Dale. Do you guys ask pedigrees of animals at the backdrop? Do you think it's appropriate to do so?
I do not think it's inappropriate to do it. I don't. But it has nothing to do with inappropriate. And this kind of ties into this topic because not just breed purity, but again, and I'm not throwing shade here at people, but like a lot of times when you purchase this animal, you were told it was this or whatever, and it may not be that, and all this other stuff. So, and in the end, it didn't matter what it is because it won. I didn't ask, is this a, Fu Manchu or anything else in the ring? I'd use that animal or that Burke or whatever because I liked it the best. And so in the end, I don't care what it is. So I never ask, and it drives Daddy James insane. Let me tell you this. Oh my God, I'll come home and he's like the Facebook king, and he'd be like, hey, that steer that you used last week in Chillicothe, what was he? Daddy James, same thing. I don't know because I didn't ask. But so I'm very, if it is I will say, because I do like if there's a Hereford that's made the top 5, sometimes I ask them what bull that's out of. So, because I know Daddy James is going to quiz me on it, but I am never asking for my personal knowledge. I do not think there is anything inappropriate with judges asking that though, because again, a lot of them are breeders and brokers and whatever, and they like this one, they use that one, and they may want to breed to that bull because it raised one they like. So I don't think there's anything inappropriate with it. I do not ask.
When I find a unique one, and again, not until the show's over, but at the backdrop, I will ask, whether it be goats, lamb, whatever. It doesn't matter what the species, but I will find myself asking at the backdrop. So in the second part of the question, I don't think it's inappropriate. Do I think it's inappropriate to ask during the show or before the Supreme Drive? Yes, it needs to be after the fact.
No, it needs to be, if you're going to ask, it needs to be after the show. I mean, that's like, that's the same thing as like when you're taking reasons at a judging contest, you don't ask them what school they're from. Now, afterwards, when it's all said and done, you might go find your high set person and say, hey, you gave me a high set. Where are you from? They'd be like, tell you the college. And that's fine. But no, it needs to happen after the show. It would be inappropriate to ask in the ring. But asking after all the dust is settled, I don't think there's anything inappropriate with that whatsoever. I just don't. And I will say there have been times, again, I've said this on the podcast, I think backdrop situations are the most awkward, tense, worst part of the job. So like, I mean, maybe sometimes I have the, hey, what's this one? Just like make a moment less tense, but it is not because I'm genuinely interested. I will just say that.
Well, that's nice to know.
Yeah.
Very nice to know. Okay. Tyler's second question gives you a little bit of a break here. It's addressed to me.
Oh, good.
I thought you'd like that. And I almost didn't put it on there because of that. But when judging goats and you see a Hummel scrapey tag, are you particularly hard on this animal since you raised it, or you judge it the same way you would judge any other goat? Okay, I'm gonna go further. Illinois scrapey tags are white, and a lot of states are white. I guess we can get them in.
You have your very own scrapies tag?
Yeah, you have to order your scrapey tags now, and you can put.
It says Hummel Livestock.
No, you can put.
So you don't have a Hummel scrapies tag.
We know you can get them. You can get, and we have had some of the during the supply chain.
This is how much I pay attention to tags, people.
Okay, we've had both. We have standard scrapey tags. We have some that it's very small, and a lot of breeders will have it on there. They're actual HL or Hummel or whatever. So you can and you do have your specific number. I don't know, the first, I got a scrapey tag maybe in the drawer. The first few numbers on the scrapey tag are going to identify your farm or your premise. So if you want to look at every scrapey tag and look at those numbers, you could decide, yeah, that's maybe from our farm. So you can do that. But guess what? Sometimes you don't have to worry about looking at the scrapey tag because we got a great big old green Hummel tag that comes in the ring. And I've judged shows and those have come in. And a lot of times buyers will ask me, are you okay if we bring that? I said, you're probably fine in showmanship. I would prefer that you didn't show it to me in the regular show. But in some situations where maybe those exhibitors only go to a couple shows, you don't really want them to not be able to go. But in an ideal world, it works much better if you're not showing anything that breeder raised that happens to be judging that show. And that's difficult. A national show, I mean, it's a complicated situation. But to go back to your question, there is no question, and I'm sure I've hurt feelings of buyers and very good families, but I believe myself to be considerably harder on those that we raised than the ones that are not.
I am going to take up for Dale in this instance and tell you that he is considerably harder on the ones that he raised, because there have been, I mean, we haven't judged a ton of goat shows together, but we have judged several. And again, I don't pay attention to tags, but anyway, when show's over, he'll be like, we'll be talking about stuff, or where he's like, yeah, I put that one third. And well, you're dumb. He's like, well, I raised it.
Oh, I remember this situation early on. You were judging hogs or something. I'm on the other ring judging goats. And afterwards, you pretty much called me everything but an intelligent person.
Yeah, and then you're like, well, we raised that one. I was like, oh, okay.
I remember that. That's a good goat. That was a very good goat.
Yeah, and you put it third.
Yeah, he got beat. I don't remember where I put it, but it did not win.
No, but so I'm going to take over Dale and tell you that he is absolutely harder on those things. And I would also like to add that I think Dale does tell people, for the most part, not to show to him and all that other stuff. And I think that more breeders and more brokers that judge shows should do the same thing. And especially if it's a jackpot show. I get if Dale was judging Louisville or something, whatever, like that. But if it's a jackpot show, you can find another jackpot show to take your Hummel goat to, or go to another one next weekend. And that's the same for anybody. Just don't go show to that person that sold you that animal or bred that animal if it's a jackpot show. And that just cut and dried as far as I'm just telling you. It's
pretty simple
cut and dried.
for you.
Yeah, cut and dried.
So
there are other options. There are other things where it makes it more difficult. Junior nationals, state fairs, all those things. But if it is just a jackpot show, no, it's cut and dried. Don't show.
And just for the record, if you do show one to me, just know I'm gonna be a little harder on it. So please don't be that offended. It just is what it is, and you need to know that going into it. But in an ideal world, you hope when you go to judge a show that you don't have any of those show up. And sometimes if they take that Hummel tag out, and I mean, you could bring one of our scrapey tags in, and I promise you I'm not going to notice it. Do I notice a certain look or a certain type? But when we sell hundreds of goats, I'm probably not going to, there's going to be a lot of them I don't remember. If you take all the tags out or put a different scrapey tag in, even though you're not supposed to, and even with our scrapey tag in there's going to be some that show under me that I'm sure I'm unaware that it was even one of ours.
I think
in that situation.
I think it's real funny because like when I judge goat shows, I'll call Dale after the show and I'll be like, so I think 3 of your goats showed today. And he's like, why did, and I don't look at tags, but like there are identifying traits among a Hummel show goat. And so like, I don't have to look at them. Like that one was real shaggy legged and dark pointed. And yeah, I think you had 3 show today. He's like, you didn't look, did you check to see? I was like, no, but I just think there was 3.
Did you ask at the backdrop? No.
No, and more times I'm right than not. He doesn't like to admit that, but
I'm not always aware of what's showing where, but that is interesting when they do show up, and I'm totally unaware of it, and I get nothing from Ryan. The final question comes from Jackie, and this ties right into our topic, and I've actually been saving this one, and for the most part we've already answered it, but we'll throw it out there again. When judging,
maybe I'll have a different answer this time.
Well, you know what? Maybe we should make Chase answer this one first.
Oh, good. We'll let
Chase. Chase, this is all yours. You ready?
All right.
And we've talked to you about doing a little livestock judging. You've kind of fought it a little bit, but when judging, do you take into consideration breed type or their breed character when placing a class of cattle, sheep, or hogs? Take that into consideration, I guess, in terms of where you place them.
I've done a couple livestock judging contests, and I'll be honest.
Emphasis on a couple, Ryan.
Yeah, very few. And they'll hand me a class, and I'll be honest, I've never thought twice about what the breed's supposed to look like, because I think I haven't judged a class since I really learned what the breeds are supposed to look like traditionally. And I'll say I have never thought about it, but going forward, if I was handed if they told me I was supposed to judge a purebred Southdown class and I saw something bigger than a Columbia, to me, I'm not going to want that animal to take first if this is supposed to be a purebred Southdown, but I think I'm still going to place it rightfully. If it's the best animal in that class, I'm going to place it the best animal in that class, because like Ryan says, it's not me who's deciding if this thing's
Lord, I was scared there for a moment.
I was hopeful the other direction.
I was sweating bullets over here.
Because to me, I want to make change on that level of when they get, or before they get into the ring. If a kid's already gotten into this ring, I can't just tear it away from them on the grounds that the show made a bad decision putting them in that class.
Lord, thank God, Chase, you have some common sense. Cause I was the most scared there for a minute. I was sweating bullets over here.
I thought you were going to use that little traditional South, and I was hopeful.
Oh, no. Terrible idea. But, and like, to answer this person, and I think this is not, I mean, I get Jace's answer and I agree with it and whatever. And like, you have to judge what's out there and all this other stuff. But like, I tell people in grand drives all the time that one of the 3 things that I pay attention to in a grand drive is like, how good is that one for their breed? Like, which one that's in that lineup would be the most competitive at a national show of just whatever that breed is. So like when you take that in consideration, I think that is part of it. Yeah. But I mean, again, when you are asked to judge a show, unless it is glaring, like when I mean glaring, like, you know, a black and white one being in an Angus steer class, it's pretty difficult to, you know, say, because again, whatever the rules were at that show, that animal and that exhibitor ended up in that class.
Agreed. And you're putting it back. If they don't want you to use them, don't let them come in the class.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, don't send it in there, but.
Well, this is one of our longer episodes. Ryan, Chase, thank you. And Chase, it is dark in Illinois. It is raining and it's pretty cold. And I'm pretty sure you still have to feed lots, pal.
Oh boy, this is going to be fun.
Yep, it's all good. Ryan?
I think he should get a reprieve since he was on the podcast, and you should make somebody else do it.
There is nobody else here. It's he and I, and I'm not doing it.
Well,
just that's his
get one of those cat people to do it.
They're gone. The younger sisters
went home.
at practice. We're just Chase and I and some dogs and some goats.
No joke, because I was driving in the gate. Last cat person was leaving.
I have a great idea.
Go ahead.
You can train Rue to do it.
Rue's inside the barn where it's warm and dry. He's not even roaming tonight.
Well, fine. Okay, Chase, you're out of luck. Sorry, Bob. I tried.
Thank you for trying.
Okay, thank you guys. Until next week, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?